be conducting the TGS 100 book launch after this session, which is going to happen now. The panel discussion on Trailblazers of Hyderabad, and I'd like to invite on stage the panelists, Mr. Vijay Y, founder KKHR. Let's hear a round of applause for all of them. Mr. Prasad G, CEO Mondi Incorporation. Mr. Murali Vadama, MD MYK Laticrid India Private Limited, and the moderator on stage, Mr. M. Srinivas Rao, CEO TiE. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I hope all of you had a good lunch. Yeah, so I have the pleasure and privilege of talking to three world-class entrepreneurs here on stage. Very interesting mix. First up, I'll start with Murali. Murali is the founder and CEO of the MYK Group. He's built what we would call a bootstrap business, built it from scratch. He's basically in the tile and stone space, and he's now employs over 1,000 people, has 1,000+ channel partners across India and the Middle East and so on. So welcome, Murali. Nice to have you on stage. We have Prasad Gundumogula. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's now into his third entity. First business he built was acquired by Mercedes. He started a second one, and now he runs, he told me, the world's largest air wholesaler, travel and logistics business. It's a company called Mondi, which is in the travel tech space. And he took the company public in NASDAQ a few months ago. Right? So unicorn founder. Nice to have you, Prasad. And last but not least, Vijay Yalamanchili. Vijay Yalamanchili is again a serial entrepreneur. Right now running two companies, one of which was in the news a couple of months ago. A company called KK. KK means awesome, and it's in the HR tech space. And he probably raised the largest round from a Series A standpoint for a SaaS tech company of $57 million, right? So please give, before we start, I think you should give these guys a big round. Okay, so now I'll start with you, Murali. So you started your journey many years ago, right? And why don't you just share with the audience snippets of what you did, how you've got to where you are, and the whole journey, right? I think the thing I wanted to share with you is Murali is not funded. He's built it bootstrapped, no VCs, built it basically using debt to scale the business. So just walk us through the journey and share your insights.
Thanks, Andy. So I think as MSR said, we have a tough session because it's after lunch. We have to keep you awake. So I think it's been a long journey, and I think, as I said, I was talking to MSR the other day. We just had an idea to get into business, didn't know what it was, and then had to raise money. So how do we get the money? So we had to go to the banker, convince the banker that two youngsters can do something, the first job, first business. We had to do a lot of things to get the banker to convince him that we could do the job. And thanks to him, we started off. And this MYK Laticrid, we make tile adhesives primarily to go under the tile and stone. So the product isn't seen. And when I took this up, most of us thought it will never make it because everybody uses traditional systems out in India. But I saw most of the parts of the world use this product, why not in India? So we introduced it, we went after it, we passionately worked for every step, tried to make the people understand what it is. It was a very long journey. It took us 20 years to get here. Started with a 5-member team. Today we are about 1,000+. We've got about 7 factories across the country. We've got a channel network of 25,000 channel partners. So it's, And I still don't remember. I remember the first order was a renovation of Taj Krishna. I don't know how many are from Hyderabad. So they were renovating the whole hotel. So the contractor was from Bombay. And me and my 3 colleagues were trying to sell him 500 rupees of a grout that goes between the stone. And still in my office, I have that invoice out there because that was my first sale in 2000. So I would say it is, but if you're following your path, and we were very, very passionate at what we are doing, and we are here right now, and as we scaled up, I think we have the first automated factory in the country. We put the first R&D in the country. For a brick and mortar business, we are fully digitalized. We have most of our companies digitized. Before COVID hit us, we could easily go through it because our company had the culture of being digitized. So these are some of the highlights of my journey. And now we're happy, we went into a last stage of connecting with the consumer last week. We signed MS Dhoni as our brand ambassador, and we are all over the media. Hopefully somebody has seen those ads. If not, we're going to be there along with him. And now is the next story of growth that we're going to continue.
Thanks, Murali. Awesome story. Let me go to Prasad. Prasad, you've done so many things, right? So you started your journey in Hyderabad, and then you're the classical, if I may use the word, rags to riches story in some ways. I say that in the nicest possible way. So why don't you quickly walk us through the first 2 stints of your journey as an entrepreneur and what you're doing now as well?
Sure. Hi, this is Prasad. I started, I came from a village and a town in this state where an education was a privilege. English was my 3rd language. And, finished my master's, went to US, then started a company and got great, successes in the initial stages of life. So I sold 2 companies, back to back. Then came to India, I wanted to start another business here, have this India calling, feeling that I came here, then started another company and failed miserably. And of course, that I learned so much out of that venture than any other ventures that we started. Then, moved into the next venture, started Mondi. Mondi is a travel tech and a marketplace based in US, but we have global operations. We went to public recently with a ticker name MOND, M-O-N-D. We are valued $1 billion, but I think that's, in our view, the number is just a number. We have huge potential, and we are disrupting a space in travel, which is, the way it's happening until today. I think that potential is very limited. The way that we are coming with our marketplace and the experiential travel into the market would disrupt travel globally. That's about myself, and of course, I look forward to,
I'm going to come back to you, Prasad. I have a lot of questions to ask you about, what has changed between the time you came back and started something here to now. But I'll come back to you on that.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So, Vijay, homegrown success.
Yeah, native to Hyderabad all the way. So like all journeys, my journey also started with a pain, but I think the pain was personal. I had a breakup when I was in US. So somehow I translated that to doing something for the nation, came back to India, joined a political outfit, Lok Satta, as a volunteer training students on coding. That didn't go that far, too naive for politics. So I came up with an incubation center based out of JNTU. In fact, this was probably the first in India, or at least first in South India, even before the IIIT or TiE incubation center started. So I was the first out of it that graduated also. I started it, and then I started my own company. The notion was to hire people that were jobless and then try to build a business out of it. So that business I grew with a tie-up with one of a US company, grew to about 2.5, 3 million, 100 people, been successful. But then I lost it all because I was lousy at paperwork, and then someone actually took advantage and they even tried to put me in jail. This was in 2012. Lost everything. Almost newlywed. I was newlywed, and I was about to, and I lost everything. So it was a very tough situation for me. So I was about to take an interview where I thought the interviewer who was interviewing me, I felt that was a person I would have rejected. And I took an emotional decision that this is not what I want to do. I started again. So I built my Technovert, which is an IT services company, from the scratch again. A lot of my previous employees, they helped me without any pay for many days and helped me actually build that company. And while I was running Technovert, I wanted to build a product, and that's how the thought about building kcard.com has come. Because I was always believed in employees as a notion. I thought that's HR tech is a good space for me to be in, and that's how we built kcard.com. Right, so it took 7 years of Gruel to work in the Indian market and try to build some good traction. But I think we came and achieved our first milestone, and this is just the beginning of the journey.
So as you said, funding is just the beginning.
It's just a milestone, first beginning, yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Vijay. Okay, Prasad, I'm going to disrupt the flow a bit, okay? And I'm going to first jump off to Murali, right? And no, maybe I'll start with you, Prasad, and then we'll come back to, because, so when you came back to India, I think you told me 2007 you came back to India and you tried to do something. And obviously you're now coming back here. You also mentioned that you're coming back to India after, thanks to COVID, after a length of time.
Yeah.
So one is obviously there's been a huge change in the physical infrastructure, particularly in Hyderabad. But in terms of a business environment, right, what do you see different today compared to when you came back 15 years ago?
Oh, a lot has changed. When last time when I was in India starting that venture out of India, we have great people, and this is the technology hub, Hyderabad, wherever that we go. Yeah, I'm from Silicon Valley, and every great company out there, a lot of Indians, a lot of people from Hyderabad. Technology is in the blood of, this country and state. So started off the products here and got great traction, and we were able to do everything. But to build a business, you need more than a product, more than a technology, platforms that we build. So it requires funding, it requires, the right marketing, it requires the whole ecosystem, right? That was not there last time when I was here. So, whatever that, exit I make, the money I made from my previous ventures, I invested into this venture when I started, 15 years back. And then I realized that we need funding, and there was no real investors here in Hyderabad, so we have to go to Bombay and other places to raise the capital. But you are like a second-hand citizen there, I know it was a little while back, but still, it is what it is. Couldn't raise that money. Then, somehow survived and went back to US and started another venture and, was able to break it. So from that point to this point, what I realized and what I see is the people, the real assets is all there and it's growing, but the infrastructure has built so much. The whole ecosystem is there right now. Had I been started my venture now than 10, 15 years back in India, in Hyderabad, things would have been different. I would have made 2, 3 unicorns by now, right? I'm confident, at least.
Thank you. Okay, Murali. So you, first of all, tough space, manufacturing, right? Second is the route you took, which is saying I won't go out and raise, I won't take venture money to build this. So tell us between then to now, right? If you were to, let's say, fast forward in time from 2000 when you started approximately to now, and if you were to start now, how do you see the environment has evolved, particularly from a manufacturing lens standpoint?
I think Hyderabad now, especially today, has a lot of ease of doing business from a manufacturing sector also. They've got a single window clearance for us. Earlier it wasn't there. We used to go to multiple departments to get our clearances 20 years back. So I think the infrastructure has improved, the logistics. See, for us, we had this first plant in India. So this was the only plant then, and we used to supply across the country. And one good, we were somewhere in the midpoint of India, so we could go everywhere. But the logistics would take a much longer time. Today, from between cities, it's much better. Internally, also the systems and processes of all the companies, the associate companies whom we work with, have got better. I think there's a tremendous change. The only thing I think would got difficult would be, I think, the bank funding. Then, I mean, the bank funded us with zero collateral. Now I think it's a lot more difficult from a bank point of view. I think, you need to go to a VC or a private equity, might be. But apart from that, I think Hyderabad has phenomenally grown infrastructure, putting a factory today in Hyderabad, I would say is one of the easiest in the country. There's no doubt about it. And the kind of systems and processes this government has come up with is brilliant.
You have plants in other states, right? So how does it compare? For example, you said it's easy to set it up here, but compared to the other states you are in, do you see a radically different way of doing things here compared to, the other states you are in?
Frankly speaking, not too much. I think, most of the states today are having systems it's only the culture of work, culture of people, and being raised from Hyderabad, always you feel more comfortable doing here than doing in a place where the language and the other things. But apart from that, I think across the country today, right now we are putting up a factory in Madhya Pradesh, in Indore. So, the chief minister called for a one-on-one meeting. Across the table, he settled and it's not a large plant. We're just investing about 130 crores. But I think they all are looking at setting up industries. And I think now the environment generally in most of the states is good. But labor, culture, these are the challenges. When you're in a hometown, you always feel more comfortable.
Thank you. Okay, Vijay, coming back to you, right? Unlike many others who would have probably, the space you are in, HR tech, and second is obviously, I think Prasad also referred to the challenges he had in, funding, etc. But you decide to build it from here, right? So walk us through how you're seeing it, in terms of there's this notion, which obviously we are working very hard to dispel, that funding is relatively easier in other parts of India compared to Hyderabad. Walk us through your journey in terms of, when you raise this round from Westbridge.
So I think relatively Hyderabad, never had that access to the funding. Sure. So, relatively Hyderabad had the disadvantage earlier about funding, not being readily available and all the VCs located in other cities. But I think out of that came a true, something unique to the Hyderabad. A lot of entrepreneurs developed grit. The two gentlemen here, they are examples. I know High Radius, I know Agile CRM, and I know a bunch of other startups that are based out of Hyderabad that have grown and done tremendously well. They have not gotten that mileage like the other startups from other cities have gotten, but we have those entrepreneurs that developed grit. And I think today that is what I see as a strength. That is what I've always derived inspiration from, seeing fellow entrepreneurs from here running without capital, right? And today VCs are talking about capital efficiency, all these things, right? So I think from that perspective, we have resources in Hyderabad. Talent is relatively much cheaper. Engineering talent is much cheaper, affordable, accessible. Talent coming from across Chhattisgarh. I've hired people from remote places in Tirupati and other regions. Tremendous talent is available, right? So this generation, any new startup, talent is the biggest capital that they need to acquire, and that is available in plenty in and around regions of Hyderabad. We just have to search hard. I think that is where my strength has been, that all my engineering people, for example, 150 engineers, I hired out of college. We have not had a single lateral hire. Same goes with my marketing team and sales. A lot of them we've hired young talent, right? Hire 1 level, 2 level down, right? Cheaper. They have the mindset of also, because they're being challenged to play a bigger role, right? They also give their best. So I think from that perspective, Hyderabad actually has amazing talent and resources.
What I'm hearing you say in summary is you build a good business, acquire talent. There is plenty of talent available here,
Yeah.
right? And then, if you've built a good business, the money will anyway come.
Capital follows right business.
Yeah. And do it with passion, as you said.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to now switch the order a little bit, right? I want to make sure people stay awake. So, the order. Okay. So let me get to you, Prasad, now. And Prasad, we've built, for example, at TiE, we worked with about 1,100 startups over the last 7 years. Today, we have about 6,500 startups in Telangana, right? We are number 4 from a ranking standpoint. Maharashtra, Karnataka are ahead of us. Now, for us, I think TiE has a stated mission of going out and building 1 million entrepreneurs, right? So if you were to think of what are the 2-3 things we need to do from an ecosystem standpoint, and where your entrepreneur's lens, right? Entrepreneurs are good at solving problems and, think about solving it, creatively, right? What are the things we need to do to make Hyderabad the place to be in for any new entrepreneur who wants to start out?
Ease of doing business, right? I mean, for any entrepreneur, when you're starting the business, there are a lot of things to take care, from your staffing. HR is your main, the challenge. Retaining those right talent is a big deal. And then building a business and then, creating value to it. So we have our own challenges, but we needed the infrastructure that's out there, the whole ecosystem and the support. The top 3 items are the people, the entire ecosystem, the funding. So it has to come hand in hand. Support from the local government, support from the, the investors, and the overall, ecosystem is very much required, and I think that's what I am seeing, right? Education, of course, there's nothing new to be done here. We have that, and we have the right talent at different levels, but bringing that to the right mindset and building the ecosystem around that talent is of paramount, interest for anyone.
Murali, let me come to you. Yeah? And, Hyderabad has made tremendous strides in manufacturing, but if you want to become a powerhouse in manufacturing, right, and be the wannabe place type of thing, what would you think we need to do?
I think Hyderabad is, the policies are in place. I think the biggest would be creating industrial zones where you can straight away go and start. Today, most amount of time of manufacturing takes is locating a land, getting it, right land, right size of land with all the infrastructure, etc. So I think already Hyderabad is doing it, but they can do more. I mean, they can come up with more clusters, right? Say this is for the construction segment, this is for the pharma industry. This is so industry specific. If you can do and create an ecosystem, I think that will go a long way in coming up with manufacturing. And Hyderabad has a talent. People for manufacturing is brilliant. They have all the other facilities. So I think if I would have to pick up one, it definitely would be the industrial land would be one of the biggest need, I would say.
You probably know, right? We already have Mobility Valley, Pharma, Genomics Valley.
Right.
and also for defense and aerospace, there's a cluster and so on. But yeah, we'll take this recommendation back. See what-
Unfortunately, for construction materials like us, nobody cares. So people are after IT and pharma and genetics and aerospace. We are the left out guys in the industry.
Thanks. Vijay,
I
coming
would
back
agree.
to you.
We all need office spaces.
Vijay, coming back to you, right? This question I keep getting asked, right? That we have 3 unicorns in Hyderabad, right? Effectively Zenoti, High Radius, and Darwinbox, of course. So, and of course, obviously valuation can never be the only metric you get measured by, because there are other things you think about. But what do we, you've talked about, you know, we have capital availability is becoming easier, talent availability is there, and all of that. But what do we really need to do to make Hyderabad, you know, challenge Silicon Valley? I'm not even worried about Bangalore and, you know, the other places, but let's say to challenge Silicon Valley.
See, that's really wonderful, right? So you didn't say compete with Bangalore, rather compete with Silicon Valley. I think we have entrepreneurs. What we lack is predominantly, and even I'm relating more to myself, but there could be a lot of people that are, you know, tremendously wonderful doing. But we think about building a product first and then trying to figure out customers. So that's something a lot of tech people think, right? So that is something where, for example, we could change, right? So rather discover the problem and then try to see if there's a big enough problem to solve and build a product aligned with that. I think that is something that advice, if a lot of younger entrepreneurs can get, they can do tremendously well. A lot of smaller startups that I come across and all, I see this narrowly, you know, missing, right? So that is one aspect. The other aspect is we're a bunch of introverts in general, I think. So that should change. Being able to sell yourself is something even I've not done so well, right? So I think that's the other part. And I'm very happy that TiE has taken up that mandate of selling success stories of their Hyderabad startups. I think these are the 2 things I would look at, right? So go to market, right? Figure out go to market first and then build a product. 2, build enough marketing muscle.
Sure. Okay, so I think I want to just throw it open to the audience very quickly, because we have about 2 or 3 minutes. We can probably take 3 questions. And again, in the interest of, you know, I want the panelists to talk for longer than the people who are going to ask the questions. So if anyone has questions quickly, which you want to throw at our eminent panel, if there is a mic which can go around, 1 question each at Prasad, Murali, and Vijay.
Hi, I'm Pradeep Udas. So I have a question for Prasad. You know, I've seen, you know, your journey right from the beginning. But you know, if you can talk, you talked to me about this whole travel industry, how it's transforming in the future.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not so much your story, but I think some other entrepreneurs can get inspired by that to see if they can play in that segment. So if you can please talk about that.
So travel is a $2 trillion market, you know, globally.
2 trillion.
2 trillion with T, okay? And, you know, air, hotel takes a big share of it, then all the other places. However, the systems, the platforms that are running the travel, this $2 trillion market, are very outdated, okay? They are working on, if you see that 20 years back, you have the same websites and you have the same websites now. People, you know, used to make the bookings with the travel agencies. Now they're doing it online, and they have been doing it for quite some time. But there are a lot of things happening from the trend. If you see the macro level trends, so Gen Zers have a very different, you know, they are setting the pace for the industry, how it should be. They like the experiential travel. They wanted to find something in this gig space. And easy, but they see the value of it. But the current systems are not there to handle that. Whether you call it as platforms, whether you call it as the infrastructure related to the supporting that. So we try to do it, by creating a marketplace where we connect the traveler space to the expert space, and we use the, AI technologies for experiential travel. Before they even think about what they needed, it provides, and suggests some trips, and connect them with the right local experts, the influencers, the content writers, when they need it, and be able to, stream the supplier content and the user-generated content to it. So that's what we do, but it is just a piece of this $2 trillion market. So what I suggest the entrepreneurs is to take this industry very seriously, and there are a lot of opportunities. It can take many, many, many unicorns, okay, and be able to disrupt this world with various ideas. So I request everyone to look into that aspect.
Do we have another couple of minutes or we are done? Can we go on for a couple more minutes? Okay. So we'll have, the audience can throw a question at Vijay and at Murali. Anyone?
Yes, my name is Jyotish. I'm one of the co-founder of TiE. We are into recruitment automation space. So one question is to Vijay, since also you are from the same space. So you said about the GTM motion need to be identified first before we created the product. So how did you track that part in Keka?
So I think in my case, I was my own use case. We ourselves needed something, so the pain was very evident in our case. For me, I was able to know the problem, so it was easy for me to figure out. But once we built the prototype, we actually did door-to-door, visited offices, and tried to validate with the customers. So we wanted to build something. We wanted to build payroll software, but we realized payroll, even before payroll, attendance automation was the most important keys, because how much to pay is a bigger problem than how to pay. So that was a discovery that led to actually building attendance automation first for us, right? So that helped us actually.
Thank you.
On with questions for Murali.
Hi, can I ask this question?
Yeah.
I heard you raised amazing amount of Series A for your startup. So when you decided to raise that amount, what type of help did you receive to understand how much money to raise? Because Series A, definition-wise, you could have from few $1 million to double-digit $1 million. So can you share a little bit about that?
Right. So see, prior to raising this round, there were about 3 attempts I made earlier to raise smaller rounds, and each of the rounds, either I was not happy with the valuation, I walked out, or when I was approaching, they were not keen. But one of the things I realized was that if the VCs did not respect my business, did not respect my space, I didn't want to pursue and want to work with them, right? So for me, the HR tech space, despite having a successful story like Darwin Box, a lot of Indian VCs had this stereotypic thinking that this is not a big enough space because there's not enough good examples of successes, right? So I've decided that I'll not pursue the VCs from India. I was actually rather trying to take funding from other outside the country. And I've had three successful VCs who were talking to me. It just happened that the raise we are raising is larger because we did not raise the previous rounds. We missed. Every time we missed a series CDA I wanted to take, I took it as a challenge as to hit the same numbers. The goals I presented to the VC, I achieved without raising money. And that gave us the confidence. And my team was like, let's keep this, right? Let's double the revenue without this funding. So we had that thing running. So our Series A, yeah, it was the first Series A, but in theory, we could have taken other rounds, right? It just happens that we raised significant amount of revenues before we went to the Series A. So the more you delay, the bigger round you will be able to raise.
Okay, I think we are really running out of time. Murali, I'll seek your permission to ask you, have the audience ask you a question. Thank you again, Murali, Prasad, and Vijay. Awesome discussion. I know we can probably go on for a few hours, but there are other sessions as well. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the trailblazers of Hyderabad, a big thank you to all the panelists and the wonderful moderator, Mr. M. Srinivas Rao. We request you to kindly stay back on stage, and I request Mr. Pradeep Udhas, TiE Global Board of